continuing to talk about all the whimsical things that are. Oh, hey, Elizabeth. Wow, everybody's right on time. I love it. Some people are starting to stream in. We're going live on the AutoCrit YouTube channel and in our Facebook group, which is NaNoWriMo with AutoCrit. Is that right? Yes. Just to kind of help get, hey, Rachel Ann. So we've got, people are joining. Let us know in the comments if you're here, where you're joining from. Emma, where are you actually? What state?
I live out in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, which is actually a very nice place to be right now because no one else is here.
I love it. Wisconsin is so gorgeous. I feel like it gets a bit of a like bad rep, but it's beautiful.
It's so pretty. Like I have been like glued to my windows waiting for it to snow because we've been having this perfect like picture book snow globe snow lately, and it doesn't stick to the ground, so I don't have to deal with the snow. It's just this beauty. Although I suppose yesterday we had like 40-mile-per-hour winds that were like straight across when we were trying to go to Menards. But usually it's just like really pretty and then it's gone the next day. So it's been perfect.
Well, it won't be long before in Wisconsin, it will be 12 feet deep of snow, and that's okay. We're building our cocoons, our caves, our work from home spots. I know you've got yours and I've got a few in my house. But that snow is, enjoy it while it's beautiful. And then later you'll be like, what was I thinking? Loving the snow. No, absolutely not.
Well, then when it's snowing, nobody expects me to go do anything. So I don't get I'm not going to quarantine shame anybody. But like this, when it snows, at least I know that everyone is actually at home because they're shoveling their driveways. So.
It's brilliant, actually. That's actually, girl, so we have to address this right away before we jump into the interview questions. You're breaking the internet with your glasses, and you know I love them. So we've got, people are like, first of all, we're getting really great eye contact right now because no one can take their eyes off your glasses. Tell us, where did you get those? How do we
I got them at Zenny, the glasses shop, and yeah, they're like, the frames are only like $10. My glasses before I started using Zenny cost $400 because my eyes are so bad. And I wanted to get like the actual like anti-glare, all that stuff. No, I got blue light glasses from Zenny. They cost me like $100. That was it, and that was because I went for all the bells and whistles. And I was like, oh my god,
I'm obsessed. I feel okay. Zenny Optical, if you're listening, go ahead and send us a free pair. MA got hers there. I got mine there. These also are blue blocking. They are, because I'm not old enough to have bifocals, trifocals. These are progressives. That's what we call them now. But same, girl, I love them. They have such a huge selection, and the frames themselves are so inexpensive, and the lenses are a great deal. ZennyOptical.com, I think it is. So everybody go find them. If you see me in our next interview sporting those glasses, MA, don't we'll coordinate so we don't both wear them, because I feel like those are next on my wish list. Yeah, not an ad, not sponsored, but if Zenny, you're out there, let us know.
They have like a whole section of like rainbow glasses, kind of like this one, but not exactly the same. So if you want to be a little bit subtler, but I was like, you know what? No, I need to go full thing. And now I have like a matching rainbow mask to go with it. So when I go out, I am like serving looks. Is that what the kids say? That's what I'm doing.
Is that what the kids are saying? Like, I'm serving looks. I love that so much. Yes. Zenny Optical. These are amazing. And yours are just out of this world. I'm definitely going to get, that's everyone, as we're going through NaNoWriMo, it is such a big undertaking, and self-care is so important. Treat yourself, everyone, treat yourself to a new pair of glasses. Get the blue block. It absolutely works. Treat yourself to a new pair of glasses for self-care during or at the end of NaNoWriMo.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They usually have a Black Friday sale. I think that's where I got my first 2 pairs from them. So they have like a deal on like the fancy lenses and stuff, because the frames are already dirt cheap, and then they like discount all the fancy stuff.
Okay, I'm going to wait for the Black Friday deal then, because I am all about the gradients and the blue blocking and the fancy lenses. Absolutely. That is fantastic.
Actually, I have a pair of prescription sunglasses that match these because sometimes, yeah, they're great. They're great.
What a great idea. I love this. So we're already getting helpful information from author M.A. Hinkle here on the AutoCrit live stream, even before we officially get started. So this has been already a raging success. Let's officially kick off, shall we? It's Beth here from AutoCrit, and I am with author M.A. Hinkle, who I'm just going to say, first of all, thanks everyone for joining. If you're watching us live, it's Monday, November 16th. Thank goodness we have these interviews scheduled, because otherwise I would never know what day it is. So I wish I was kidding. But I have to say, MA, the bio, your bio says that you swear a lot and make jokes at inappropriate times. So I've been looking forward to this, especially all month long. Don't let us down.
I'm trying to be good now.
That's a bummer.
But
that's okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to be like an official author person instead of the gremlin that I am the rest of the time.
I feel like we should schedule. This is a 10 a.m. show. Maybe we should schedule like a 10 p.m. show where we look like after dark with M.A. Hinkle, where the real stuff comes out. I think that would be so fun. Maybe we should think about that.
That would be super fun. I would totally okay. One of my friends on Twitter was saying that her NaNoWriMo municipal liaison was doing like a Zoom sleepover where they were doing a write-in. So she was like, which onesie should I wear? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so jealous.
100%. I was on the cusp of wearing a caftan today because I'm living that Mrs. Roper lifestyle now. And I feel like a onesie. AutoCrit watchers, listeners, participants in this live stream, hit me up in the comments if you want to do like a onesie, like pajama type. Please keep it clean. I know that we will, but I would be on board for that. I have the cutest cat onesie. Go figure, me in a cat onesie. But I think that would be adorable. Yes. Awesome. Let's jump in. I feel like we already know a lot about you, M.A., but give us a quick kind of your history. How did you get into writing? How did this whole thing start for you?
Let me see. I've been doing NaNoWriMo since like 2008, I want to say 2008, 2009. But I've been, like the writer person since I was a little kid. And my first book was published in 2018, which already feels like an eternity ago. And now I officially have 3 books published. I'm working on the 4th in the series, but it's like you have it. Please show them the cake. I love my cover so much. It's so cute.
This, you guys, is this the one that was 2018? Because you wrote this during NaNoWriMo. Yes. I got my sequence mixed up, and I actually started with this one. I'm getting a little bit of a glare here. I'm never going to be an Instagram influencer if I can't work these camera angles. But I've read this one. I'm working on this one. I'm a little out of order. Does that matter? First question.
No.
Okay, good.
Technically, they're like in chronological order, but I started writing Death of a Bachelor in 2016, and I used NaNoWriMo to finish it, I think. And that was before 2016 went down the tubes, so to speak, if we're going to be delicate. So technically all the books are set in 2016, but I'm just like, nope, no, they're in a completely different universe. Nothing to do with it. I just needed a timeline because there's a bunch of flashbacks in Death of a Bachelor.
Okay.
And also in Weight of Living, I guess. I did that one like as a jump back and forth type thing because I want to torture myself. I wanted to make my life hard.
As a reader, I appreciated that. So yeah,
okay, good.
In I can speak to this one for sure because I have finished it. Flashbacks, kind of pulling all that story together, and it does a tremendous job of what we like to talk about around dripping in bits of information about your characters and their backstory, rather than just starting out with like, well, here's all the information that you're ever going to need. That exposition dump, if you will, I think the Weight of Living does such a nice job just giving you a little bit at a time when you need it. And when you like, you go back and you're like, oh, I get it now. Oh, I see who that character is a little bit more clearly as you go through the book. So torture yourself, girl, because I, as the reader, really enjoyed that. So thank you for torturing yourself.
Oh, well, it was a book, and I'm just really glad that people like it, because it was like the hardest thing I've ever written.
So
and
this one was in Nano, so 2016. Tell me, was that an easy Nano for you? What happened during that? And then kind of the journey from finished Nano to fully edited, gorgeous cover. Take us on that journey like you do as an author.
Okay, let me see. I started writing that book in 2016 when I was like super depressed for non-2016 reasons. So that was like my happy place book. But then I got about halfway through and I got stuck. And so I was using NaNoWriMo to finish it, as you do. Finished it, and it went through about 3 drafts where I made significant changes, because originally it was just a single point of view book. And then I was like, oh no, this is more of a romance. I have to actually put the dual point of view in there, because that's the big thing. That's really important. So I did that. And then I had to tweak some more stuff after I got some critiques from an author friend of mine. And let's see, I actually found out it was going to be published in like right around New Year's of 2017. And then it came out in October of 2018.
Wow. In publishing terms, that's still a pretty fast timeline. So this is from 9-Star Press. Did you go through an agent, or how did that
work? Let's see. One of my friends runs a writing podcast, which he's actually discontinuing now. So, but it's called the Writes Cast Network. If you look it up, it's got a lot of like really interesting perspectives from all over the industry. So I recommend that. I've actually got an episode coming out this week where we just like vented, because we both got published about the same time. And so we're just talking about how much our life has changed over the last like 4 years. But basically, 9-Star was on his podcast. Like he had a 9-Star author on there. And I was like, they have an open submissions thing. If you're an author who writes queer books at all, like they're basically begging for submissions. All the team is really nice. And as you can see, very lovely covers. They have this lovely cover artist named Natasha Snow who does all the stuff. And she's so talented. It's amazing. I've been like feeling out the process of getting an agent, but like right now, because of the pandemic, I really had to stop working on my Cherrywood Grove books, because they're, contemporary romance, not fun right now. I just couldn't do it until like last month. I got unblocked finally.
Oh,
so I've been working on other stuff, and like being like, what do I want to do now? But like 9-Star, like the contracts are good and the terms are really good. So honestly, like if you're intimidated by publishing and wanted to do something like that, 9-Star or some other small presses out there would be a good place to start to get your feet wet and feel it out. Because it's like, these are all normal people, not like weird people who live in New York and do cool stuff all day.
Oh my God, I love that so much. Like weird New Yorkers. So do they only, or do they primarily do like queer fiction, LGBTQ rights sort of like stories, or is it more?
9-Star is totally queer fiction. Like they will publish basically any genre, including YA. My second book is a YA novel. Because like a subplot in Death of a Bachelor is about his teenage son getting a crush for the first time. So my editor was like, write about the teenage son. And I was like, yes.
Okay.
So that book was like cotton candy. It was so great. But they only publish queer fiction, but they're not. A lot of small presses out there will say only like gay men, or only trans fiction, or only lesbian fiction. 9-Star is anything.
Okay.
which is really nice. And they're not gatekeepy. They have a lot of, I don't want to sound judgmental, but they have the highest proportion of actually queer people writing actually queer books versus like the traditional publishing industry, which is a lot of straight people writing queer books and then getting confused when we're like, we want something else, actually.
I mean, it's so difficult to nail that voice or that feeling, that vibe, to access those emotions if you just haven't lived through it. So I can absolutely see that. And I see somebody in our comments already saying like, cool, I write LGBTQ historical romance. So Mary, maybe 9-Star is the place for you. That might be something really to dig into. I'm going to go back to this one because this is the one that I've read.
Also, I should say all the people that I've met through 9-Star are like so nice. Like I've met so many cool authors doing cool stuff. It's just been such a really pleasant experience with them.
And that is so important to find a publisher, editor, author, or editor, agent, publisher, all of those things. As the creative force, how important do you feel that it is to really vibe with your squad, let's say?
Yes, that's actually my big thing. Okay, my day job is as an editor. And something I always say, like, if I give somebody notes, I'm like, okay, this is my thought on the situation, and I want you to sit with this stuff. And if it doesn't work with you, you need to tell me why. But this is not set in stone. You know, you have when you're working on a book, you do have to set aside your feelings when you're getting edited, because there's a part of you that's gonna be like, no, I worked so hard on this. Do not touch it. My precious.
I like that that's a little bit extra than like your darling. That is your precious.
Well, that's how it feels. It just turns on your Gollum brain. So you have to turn off Gollum brain, but you do still have to check in with yourself and say, is this the right direction? Like, does this person understand what I was trying to do? Because when you find that perfect piece of advice, you'll know. Like, the person will tell you, and you'll just be like, oh my God, that's completely correct. I can't believe I didn't see that myself. Like, in my book Diamond Heart, it's from first person point of view, and the main character has a rift with his father, and I was struggling with like, does he call him dad, so I kind of switched back and forth, and my editor was like, why doesn't he just call his dad by his first name? And then at the end, once they make up, he starts calling him dad, and I was like, oh my God, that's so simple, but that's so clever. And that was the kind of thing I was thinking about. Whereas a few times I have had to push back and say, no, this is why this is important to me. And I've thought really hard about this. And I've asked some other people, like, no, this needs to stay.
Yes. And I love that idea of being able to underscore the situation from the character's point of view. I'm distanced, and I'm biased because I am using that mechanism in what I'm writing for Nano. It's like they called him dad, and then after he left, he was Michael. Like that's how that. We don't call him dad anymore. We call him Michael, and it really shows that emotional distance. So thanks for validating me, MA. Goodbye. Glad we had this talk. I feel good. I love that. So turn off the Gollum brain is going to be my new jam. So, and I know that you have several other tips, tricks, bits of feedback for people just kind of working through NaNoWriMo itself. By the way, if anybody has questions for MA, pop them in the comments. I'm loving how many people are saying, oh, I have a little bit of an LGBTQ aspect in my book, and I've got LGBTQ fantasy world. Like this audience is great for what we're talking about here. I love it so much. One question that did come through, with the small press, is the marketing more on the author, or did they full take care of you? It's so different with such a diverse group of independent presses. How was your experience with marketing for your books through 9-Star?
Okay, so I'm going to be real honest with you.
Yes, please.
It does not matter what size of publisher you get. Okay, because I made a very deliberate choice in going with 9-star. I've been involved in the industry in various ways since about 2010 when I was in college, because one of my professors was actually a publishing professional. So I got an exposure to that stuff. And something that really blew my mind is publishers are dumb. They are dumb across the board. Like, I love 9-star. I'm saying this with so much love. They are bad at marketing. And it really, but that's the thing with a small press is you do assume a lot of that responsibility for yourself. That when you're looking at going with a small press versus like the big three now, is it with capitalism? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The larger publishers who are like going to like be some kind of single super being pretty soon.
Yeah. Just one glob, one giant glob.
It's a question of autonomy versus, you know, you have to do less work. So on the small press side, you have a lot more autonomy. You can be a lot blunter in your online presence, but that also means that you have more responsibility to market yourself, because 9-star Press has the budget to really invest in my cover art, my editing and stuff like that, but not necessarily in like a huge Facebook ad spend. Whereas like a larger press will have more money to do, you know, the traditional ads, Amazon, blah, blah, blah. But that comes with the caveat that traditional publishers are really bad at marketing either way. Like they will say like, okay, maybe they'll set up, you know, an author talk with you, but a lot of that responsibility will still fall on you no matter what type of person you publish with. It is amazing to me the disparity in like how different things are marketed, and I'm just sitting here like, you could do this and you would be selling so many copies of this book, but you just don't know how. The only traditional publisher I've seen that actually like does a good job at like speaking to readers as opposed to like speaking to other publishing professionals is Tor, the fantasy publisher, because they actually put like content warnings and what is it, like content tags, like, you know, like tropes and stuff like that, like just one bed or stuff like that, and they actually like speak the language of the reader, whereas most traditional publishers will just be like, here is a book, take the book, we like this book,
buy the book.
That's literally it. And I'm just sitting here like, what is wrong with you?
Well, I think it's interesting that you point out the level of autonomy that you get, because it feels almost like if you're going with the bigger houses and the bigger investment from the company on your book with your marketing and etc., then you will have to give up some of that control over your online persona, because they will want you to present in a certain way, or they will want you to have a certain persona online. Would that be better or worse if you were writing under a pseudonym, do you think? How would a pseudonym play in there?
Well, I think the thing is with a pseudonym these days is that Twitter is full of sleuths. And if someone has a beef with you, they'll find like everything about you. So a pseudonym is not necessarily a guarantee of anonymity. Like, I mean, not to bring up a controversial figure because I don't roll with her anymore, but J.K. Rowling wrote as Robert Galbraith, and that was supposed to be a big secret, and it was cracked in like a couple months.
Right.
Like, you know, and that was supposed to be her anonymous pen name, and it didn't work. And I'm like, obviously, maybe it was a marketing stunt, but people would have figured it out either way. So, and even if under the pen name, you're still going to have to perform a persona. It might just be a slightly different persona.
I had forgotten about the power of Twitter, especially in the last 2 years. I think it has exploded. People are in this cancel culture kind of thing, so they are going to find out about you regardless. So I think there's a lot of interesting internal dialogue to be had around choosing to go indie versus traditional versus you know, self-publish or whatever it is what do you want your personal life to be like? You mentioned earlier the Writes Cast podcast, where you are going to be talking about how your life has changed since you got published. do you have a tiny little spoiler you can give us of just one thing that you've noticed that has changed since you got published?
Yeah, okay. So like I said, I picked a small press pretty deliberately. So I wasn't expecting like, big splashy stuff. But what I was amazed was not the change in my like outside life, it was the change in my inside life that I didn't expect. Like I deliberately picked a small press to kind of like feel my way through things, versus trying to go the whole hog route of like, agent, deal, New York press, da da da. Like that was way too intimidating for me back in 2016. It's still kind of too intimidating for me right now.
It's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
But even with a small press, I was still having unrealistic expectations of myself. So a lot of what Ryan and I talked about in that episode, because both of us got published around the same time, so we were really on this journey together, was how our kind of like, I guess going back to the Gollum brain, like there's a voice in the back of my head that was like, you don't get to stop, you don't get to rest, you have got to churn out these books and get done, because there's a statistic that's like, if you don't really start making money as an author until you've got 16 books out, which is technically true. It's true. That's how you get the longest book. Like you have to have a nice big backlist to start really making money. I don't want to like crush anyone's dreams, but like if you don't know about the economics of being an author, it's something you should really look into to kind of temper your expectations. And we can talk about that, but I don't want to like ruin anybody's life. This is NaNoWriMo. We're supposed to be happy.
Yes, I am going to just make a note, because I feel like exploring the economics of that and really being able to work your way through it would be such a great thing for us to talk about at a later time. So yeah, but right now. Right. 16 and we'll go, and I think that'd be a great conversation interview for us to have at a later time. Yeah, definitely. Economics of being an author. Yep. Got it. Sorry to interrupt, but that was so like, oh, that's a real stat. That's
I don't know if it's exactly 16, but it's something. It's like in between 10 and 20 is the usual idea. But anyway, my point is, so I was like, I've really got to, because Cherrywood Grove, when I started writing it, I was like, this is just one book. And then my editor was like, well, will you write the YA novel to go with it? Because we also do YA. And I was like, sure. And I sat down, and when I started writing the YA novel, I really enjoyed working with the teenagers' friends. And I was like, oh my God, I could totally do like a set of paired YA and adult novels. So what I'm working on right now is the YA that goes with Weight of Living. Yeah, it's about Sarah.
Yeah. Oh, so she's such a good character.
I love her so much. And I just feel bad I haven't finished it yet, because she's like the best.
So fantastic.
But anyway,
sorry, go ahead.
Like I immediately like had all these ideas and like a pretty solid idea of like what each book would be for like 8 books, and which is a lot. And I was like, and I sat down, and Diamond Heart was really easy for me to write because I'd already written Death of a Bachelor. And so I like wrote that in like 3 months. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The draft was basically done. It didn't really get any significant changes. So I was like, I'm going to be like this with all my books. It's going to be so great. And then I tried to write Weight of Living, and that took me like a year and a half. With like, okay, the book itself is like 80,000 words, I'd say 80, something like that. I probably wrote and discarded another 80,000 words for that book.
Wow.
It was just such a, and I was really beating myself up. The point that I'm trying to get to here is like, I was so hard on myself, even though I deliberately picked this path of small press to not put so much pressure on myself and like explore who I was as a writer and try to get into that practice of just working and finishing books instead of like jumping from project to project like I did before I was published. And instead I was just like, no, I need to be a machine. I got to do this, like da da da. People are counting on me. And it's like, no, just chill. Okay. You are not your product. You're a person. And then you are an author. And that was basically what Ryan and I talked about on the podcast. Was like, you can market your author self, but you're not marketing you, the person. And you have to keep that in mind. There is a separation, and you need to protect that with your life, because you as an author are the only person who's going to be watching out for yourself. Like, your editor and your agent will be on your side, but at the end of the day, they have their own interests at heart. And you have to look at yourself and say, is this what I really want? So that's my spiel.
That's amazing. It feels like that bright line distinction between marketing yourself as an author and protecting yourself as a human being really talks also to self-care. In addition to turning off your golem brain, like, I am going to market like my work as an author, and I believe in it as the creative force behind it. I am going to endeavor to turn off my golem brain, which is really hard, as we all know. But it also speaks to me about being kind to yourself and not putting that much false pressure on yourself. Like, if you need to take a day off, and I think this would apply within NaNoWriMo as well, if you need to take a day off for self-care, to get your mind right, to do a little plotting if you're a pantser, then do it. And one of our previous author interviews spoke to the same thing. Take that time, because when you're ready to write, when you're ready to take that next step, when you're ready and refilled and rejuvenated as yourself, then the words will come. Then your author is ready, your author persona, if you will, is ready to get those words down and really get started. So I love that it's a little bit about building that thick skin, but it's also about remembering to be kind to yourself. And Cass mentioned that the other day, and then we went straight into a write-in. A lot of our followers will remember we did the interview with Cass, who said, like, be kind to yourself, be gentle. And then I went right into the write-in, and I'm like, I suck for these reasons. And one of our participants had to be like, remember. It's like, ooh, you're so right. So I just love that. Speaking of Nano, so you're also doing NaNoWriMo this year, and you are doing fantastically well. I think you mentioned to me before we started the show that you took the weekend off for self-care to celebrate your birthday. Happy birthday, by the way. And now what's your mindset to get jumping back in on this beautiful Monday morning to get back into the habit of writing, couple thousand words a day?
Well, that was actually my goal with doing NaNoWriMo is I got really sick in 2018 and I had to adjust my expectations, because I started doing NaNoWriMo over a decade ago. And that really helped set me up as a young writer to, like, okay, if you sit down and do this every day on one project, you will finish a book. And for me, that was like a revelation when I was in high school, because I jumped around between projects like every kid does. And then I sat down and did this, and I was like, wow, this really does feel as different as everyone tells me, but I can do this. And so I really had this expectation of myself as a person who writes 2K a day, no excuses, don't be a quitter, kid. Like, and that was a part of my identity, like I was saying before. And then I got sick, and I had to adjust that identity back. So, like, this year, because it was so awful, I was like, okay, no, I'm going to, like, stop pushing myself to try and finish, like, book 4. I'm going to take away those expectations. I'm just going to sit down, and I'm going to go where the spirit moves me. So I wrote, like, 100,000 words of fan fiction this summer. Like, that was all I was doing. Like, I was just sitting there, like, I'm just going to sit and do 500 words a day, because I use the website for the words, and to get your daily goal, you hit 400. So I was like, 500, even number, easy peasy. And we can talk about For the Words later if you want, because that one is it's the best website. But I was like, I just got to hit that. So I keep my streak and I get my nice stuff. And if I don't feel like doing it because I'm too busy, I'm just not. And as I took that weight off myself to hit a goal, it became easier to hit the 500 words a day. And then I was slowly working my way up, but I still wasn't consistent. So what I'm trying to do now with Nano is push myself back into that mindset of, like, okay, you used to do this every day. It's not difficult for you to write anymore. Like you have the headspace finally. So you're going to sit down and just do this every day. So like an hour or two working on this book doesn't feel like, you know, climbing a mountain. It's just part of what I do every day again. So that's really my goal. If I get a good book out of this, I'll be happy. But if I don't, it's really more about the practice.
And so many authors have said the way to get better at writing is to write. The way to write a book is to write. I mean, it's not earth shattering. It's weirdly logical if you think about it. The way to get better at writing is practice, 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 getting that, like getting that habit established, and also reading, read, write. Look at the pattern that other authors are doing. Yep. Rachel, and I see you. Yep. Read, and write. The way you're going to get better at it. And as AutoCrit, we also say edit, because that's, you know, that will help you develop good practices. If you're running the adverbs report within AutoCrit and you're striking out all those adverbs and you see it so frequently and you rework it so frequently, it will become a great habit for you to be thoughtful about barfing out adverbs all the time. I mean, hypothetically speaking, I've got it done in my draft, but it's okay. But I think during Nano, right, you're establishing those good habits of just sitting there writing and getting yourself in the headspace and learning about yourself. What does it take to get me in that headspace? For me, it's like I'm very motivated by earning a badge or a sticker or a whatever. So I want that 7-day streak badge. I have the luxury, being part of the AutoCrit team, of saying, okay, AutoCrit members, we're going to do a write-in every day for 7 days because I need a badge. And it works. You know, it helps give my partners that kind of accountability and reserving that space. It's the concept of writing with a buddy, writing in a writer's group, going to the gym with a friend back when we could all, you know, go to gyms, but having that accountability of somebody being there for you and with you, that really is like, okay, we're going to get together. We're going to have a prompt and we're going to set a timer for 15 minutes and we're all in this together, building that habit. And that level of accountability really has been wonderfully helpful. Do you do any writing groups? Do you write on your own? Do you join write-ins? What does your particular writing practice look like, May?
Well, like I said, I use this website called For the Words.
Yeah, just saw that.
I don't know if they're a sponsor of NaNoWriMo this year, but they always do a big event. And they're just like, that website has been so motivating for me because the concept is it's basically writing like a video game. You pick a monster that's a certain amount of words. Yes, there it is. It's so good. And you sit down and you write and you do have stats. So as you level up, it actually like the monster will say it's 500 words, but your defense goes up. So it takes like 490 words technically. And so you start like being able to plow, like now I'm like a super high level because I've been doing this since like 2018 or 2017, I want to think. And so like a 2K monster is actually like 1,500 words, which is really, it feels really good to be like, done.
This kind of feels like Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. Like you're building, is it? Oh,
it seems got this whole storyline. And the art is so beautiful. And it's the base membership cost, like there is a fee, but it's only $4 a month. You know, blah, blah, blah. It's your coffee. I don't drink coffee.
Look, that's the most shocking thing you've said all day.
No, I do have lots of caffeine. It's just I can't stand the taste of coffee, so I use like those little Mio things with the energy in them.
Yes, it's okay, girl. I drink enough coffee for both of us, probably for all of us watching here today. I'm just made of coffee and apparently ice cream, but that's a different interview altogether. Yes.
But no, like For the Words is great because, like I said, you have to do a certain you have to do 444 words a day to qualify for the streak. And they do have ways that you can like pause it or go back and fix a day if something happens. So it's really flexible. But the idea is you hit this very small goal, and that's not difficult. Like, it can be, obviously, it even some days, like, one word feels like no. But it's a little bar, you just whoop, and every day you find yourself doing that. And obviously, as you go through, you progress in the storyline. They're always adding new stuff. And the community has just exploded. Like, I'm not a very social person about my writing. Like, it took me, like, let's see, I've been with my partner for 5 years now, I want to say 4 or 5. And it's only been like, I only started letting him read my draft book and not like the finished printed book with Weight of Living, because I needed that motivation of someone to say, like, please finish this. So when I'm on For the Words, I mostly just lurk and like look at everyone else being super happy, but that's motivating in itself. Like, I see all these other people who are like, oh my God, I finished my book for the first time ever. And I'm like, yes, good for you.
So amazing. That's just so amazing. I love the idea of getting motivation by seeing others succeed and celebrate their accomplishments. And part of the AutoCrit author community, which, by the way, we just passed 5,000 people, so I'm super excited. But if they finish a draft, if they get edits back, if they get cover art, celebrating that, it's really kind of the heart and soul of the community that we're building as part of the AutoCrit authors community, is like, celebrate like what you're personally accomplishing, whether that's I finished this draft I've been working on for 10 years, or it's I got edits back and I didn't cry, like whatever it is. Very real. Very, I mean,
oh yes.
Nobody's posted that yet, but I can imagine that is a very real, like, and it's so inspiring just to see people celebrating their own individual and very personalized milestones. I don't have any idea what happened in their life over those 10 years that they had a manuscript on the shelf. The fact is, like, they bootstrapped up, they put on their big girl panties and like got in there and finished it. And that's freaking amazing. And if they can do it, I can do it. You can do it. Other writers can do it. Getting that motivation from just seeing others succeed it fills my soul. Like, it's just, I have no words. Golly, and now I still have to write today. So,
and that's like the number one piece of advice I would give as an author, like, especially if you want to be professionally published. Because if you don't, legit, do you? But if you do want to be professionally published, it's so hard. There's a lot of emphasis on debuts and like making your debut super splashy and stuff like that and blah blah blah. It's like, no, that's all just noise. And if you sit here and feel jealous every time someone says, oh, I sold a book, or oh, I signed with an agent, you're gonna lose your mind. You need to be able to look at that and turn it into joy for yourself and for that other person. Even like, sometimes there might be someone that you just don't like, whatever, mute them on social media, block them, who cares? They're not going to know you. But you look at the people that you care about, and you have to be able to legitimately feel joy for them. And once you can do that, your life is going to be so much better, because you're not going to just be like, if you're jealous, it's impossible to write like that. You got to feel that joy and let it motivate you.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Feeling joy for other people's successes. And I have a real world example of that within Nano this year. People are already, it is November 16th. People are already saying, I'm done. I finished. I hit my 50,000 words. I'm like, I haven't even cracked 10K yet. Like, what's going on? So seeing, I don't know their situation. Maybe they don't have a full-time job. Maybe they don't have a crazy cat rolling around on the floor that they need to pay attention to. Maybe, who knows what their situation is. All I know is they've done a really great thing, and I'm happy for them. There's plenty of space in the universe for all books to be written and all books to be published and all books to be, well, not all books to be published, but there's space out there. Their accomplishment doesn't in any way take away from my potential. So being able to find joy for them rather than saying, their accomplishment somehow took away from me. It's hard. And during Nano, especially because it's so competitive, the idea of internalizing the competition, and making it about beating your own goals. I don't know that my goal is actually going to be, my personal goal is not actually going to be 50,000 words, but I am super happy for the people out there who are saying my goal was 100,000 words. I'm like, that's a lot of words. So good for you. Like, it doesn't reduce the number of words that the rest of us are able to write.
Exactly.
I love that. What other tips do you have for, we have a mix of people who have been doing Nano for many years. Some people, it's their first Nano. Some people had watched it for a while and just decided to participate. Some people literally just found out about it this year. So what other advice and tips do you have for slugging it through that 50K goal?
Let's see. The first thing I would say is that you have to treat every day as its own thing, because it can be really easy to get caught up in the, oh my God, I'm so behind type thing, and feel really like let that drag you down. And you have to be like, nope, today I'm going to do this. And maybe the words I have to do are a little bit higher to try and get to that goal. Or maybe I'm going to have to try and sneak in a day where I do a whole bunch of extra words during a write-in or something. But every day you just have to be like, nope, I'm going to do this no matter what. And it's like, even if you don't technically get to 50K at the end, you've still written more than you would have either way. So it's really more about sitting down and like, you know, light a nice little candle, pet your kitty cat, have a pretty cup of coffee or whatever it is you like to do, have your nice breakfast, and then sit down and work. Or like if you're like a night owl or something, like I don't know what you do at night, something, have a pretty glass of wine and your twinkle lights on and like sit down and like, yes, this feels good to write. Like, I am not shaming myself, I am not calling myself bad names. I am just doing this because I love it. And that's really what it's been like for me this time. It's just like, wait, no, I actually like doing this. What happened?
And it feels like removing a little bit of that pressure. MA and I talked a little bit before we started this live stream about where we are in our word counts for Nano this year. And the Nano tracker now tells me, because Mary, I'm with you. I'm so far behind. Like it'll tell me now how many words per day I need to write in order to get back on track. And I find that to be a little bit overwhelming. So I just don't look at that. And I'm okay with that. Like, I lost, I don't know, 1,300, 1,400 words, and it says, oh, you still need to give me 80 billion words to get back on track. And I'm like, not interested in that right now. So making it a part of your, your internal challenge. I want that 7-day streak badge. So that's for me. Does that mean I'm going to write the prescribed 1667? Or now for me, it's like 4 billion words a day to get back on track in those 7 days? No, but I'm going to have that practice and I'm going to enjoy it because it should be fun creating and share, putting words on page and making worlds and developing 3-dimensional characters who have real attitude, like Sarah. Yep. Is supposed to be fun. So I think treating every day as its own thing, as you mentioned, joy in other people's success, keep it fun. Never lose sight of the personal joy and satisfaction that you should really focus on, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, the whole reason I decided to do Nano this year, I was like, before I started Nano, I was working on like 2 different projects. Like, I was working on my 4th Cherrywood Grove book, and then like this totally bonkers book I've actually had trunked for 10 years. And I was like, when I tried writing it, I was in college, and I was like, I'm just not happy with this. I love it so much. And now I feel like I've come to the skill level as a writer where I'm like, time to pick you up and shake you off and see if you're any good. Yeah. So I was like really happy about that. But then I got this idea for Nano for something totally out of my normal wheelhouse. It's like, really bonkers. And I was like, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and it was distracting me from my other stuff. And I sat down and there's this really great romance book. If you are a romance author, read Romancing the Beat. Look it up on Amazon, buy it. It's like $5. It will change your life. like I took that, and she gives you a little beat sheet in there. And I know this can sound constricting, but the way she explains it, it's all tied back to character. So it felt so freeing. And I was looking at this, I was like, oh my God, like I already have the whole story here. And it brought me so much joy that I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to set all this other stuff aside and just try and like bang out this book in November, because that's where my heart's taking me. And it feels so good, like to just do something like, I don't even know if this is going to be any good. I don't know if I like it. I don't care. I'm having so much fun. And that's what I'm trying to do with Nano this year, is that's really it.
Oh, I love that. And I have this visual of like, here's your brain, and here are these other characters that have nothing to do with what you're trying to work on. And they're just like insistently knocking. They're like, I am right here and I have to tell you this thing. So let it flow. Let that story out. Oh, I love that so much. Quick question from the community. How do you hear from your fans, and how does their feedback help you or hurt you, or how does your fan interaction go, and maybe even I don't want to say critiques, do I? Commentary or reviews of your work?
Well, I'm the kind of person who, something I've always worked on very hard is distancing myself from my work. Like personally, I squish that golem brain as hard as I can. So, it's like when the work is done, it's out there. And that's something you do have to let go of when when the book is published, it's done, and people are going to react to it how they react to it. I've had a lot of positive reactions to my book, which has really made me happy. Like, and a lot of my friends in real life have, like, I mean, obviously they're my friends, but people I know who are not readers, like, picked up my book as a courtesy to me. And then they were telling me like, oh my God, this is so funny. I love it so much. And that really, really was nice. But fan interaction, something when you're a published author is you have to be very mindful of staying out of reader spaces. Because there'll be a book reviewer community that's like looking at your books, and you want to get reviews from them, obviously, because that's how you get eyeballs. But you don't want to insert yourself as an author unless they invite you and say like, hey, would you come do an interview with me? Or if they specifically reach out to you and say, oh my God, I loved your book. Otherwise, you want to do, like, you can like look yourself up or whatever, but like keep your distance and be respectful of people having their own opinions is a really big piece of advice. But people will, if they like your book, they will like seek you out and say like, oh my God, it was so funny. Like somebody live tweeted reading Weight of Living, and I was just sitting there like glued to Twitter, like refreshing and being like, oh my God, have you gotten to this part yet? Like, what? So that was really exciting. But that person specifically tagged me and said they were going to be reading that. I wasn't like creeping.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little bit careful. Because they will tell you off if you're getting too close. And like a lot of people have gotten in trouble for trying to respond to especially bad reviews. But even when it's a good review, people can still be like, I just read this book and I'm a fan of the book, not necessarily you as a person. I don't need to be
it. I think that speaks a little bit also back to that separation of you as a human and you as an author. So having that little bit of distance, maybe a good thing. It sounds like you're super active on Twitter. What is your Twitter handle?
Oh, I'm not as active as I used to be because the world was on fire for a while. It's still on fire. Yeah. But my handle is Skysong MA like my name. And I promise I don't bite. I'm just not very active right now. Hopefully things will chill out. And something I do suggest is Twitter is where you're going to find a lot of publishing professionals, not necessarily where you're going to find a lot of readers, but you'll find a lot of bloggers, a lot of agents, a lot of like actual editors and stuff like that. So if you want to start making connections with professionals in the industry and like learn from the best of the best, you're going to find them on Twitter, and they will definitely tell you what's on their mind, because that's what Twitter is for. So if you're looking to connect with people or find an agent or something like that, Twitter is a really good resource, especially if you don't have a lot of money to spend on something like Publishers Marketplace. where you do have to pay money to be able to see, like, this agent has published this book, blah, blah, blah. No, it's on Twitter. They got it all in their bio, or you can look at the author and see, like, represented by blank, and then be like, that agent, I'll go follow that agent.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Twitter is just a wealth of, well, and for better or worse, right? It's a wealth of information. It is also a wealth of very strongly stated opinions. So it's pick and choose. I think the approach of looking for the people you want to look for and getting to know them a little bit. I hesitate to call it creeping because that's a little negative, but yeah, creeping, fine. Twitter's public, right? For most people. Being able to do a little bit of research and make the connections that you want to make, very, very strategic way to leverage Twitter for its best aspects, connecting tons of agents out there. You're so right. Editors, publishers, calls for manuscripts. We actually have heard that from a few authors we've interviewed even this month. So yeah, hearing it a lot means it's really true. Now, I've missed the middle book here, but I've got the I don't have Diamond. Oh, is the kitty going crazy there?
Nope.
Okay. I don't have Diamond. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So it's Death of a Bachelor. It's Weight of Living. It's Diamond Heart. It is 4th book in progress for this series, and the corresponding YA aspects, which I'm super excited about. What a great idea. These are all written third person / third omniscient, maybe. I always get confused when it gets to that level of detail. But is anything that you're working on going to be first person? Maybe the fun nano project you're working on? Any first?
Actually, yeah, my nano is in first person, because and my YA books are all in first person, because that's more of a thing in YA. You want to be, adult books are allowed to be a little bit more removed. YA is really about big feelings on the page, and it helps if you're in first person, because then you're really in that character's head. It's not a rule, obviously, but it's for the type of thing I'm writing. It's like, that's really a big thing, and it feels good, because you're just like right there, like with those big feelings. And so with this book that I'm working on for Nano, it's like my first like capital R romance, whereas the books that I've written before are more like contemporary literary fiction. It sounds pretentious, so I just don't, like, whatever. They're set in the modern day and they have a romance plot, but they're not romance like capital R, like with genre expectations that come along with it. Whereas this one is, the genre expectations are me being like, give me all those tropes, feed me like popcorn. So it's in first person, like, oh my God, like star eyes. Oh, and I'm just having so much fun with that.
I love when you talk about contemporary blah, blah, blah. I just want to say, go to Zenny, see if you can get a monocle. Have that.
But I would be so blind. I'm like,
that would be amazing. You just have to like constantly wear your Zenny monocle, rainbow print everything. Yes, but it's fancy. It's fancy. It's contemporary literary, all the buzzwords all together. It just makes me think of like, monocle. So, you mentioned third person being great for adult books. And I think that is really because adults as readers have that ability to put themselves in different characters' heads, and you as the author can guide them through that. And that's a great motivation for choosing third person for adult books. Any thoughts from your side of why you chose third person for your, I hate to say adult books because that sounds a little meow, chicka, meow, meow, but grown-ass books, I don't know.
I don't know. They're like, I guess technically my characters would be Gen Xers because they were born in the 80s. Like, they're slightly older than me. But that was just because of how old I wanted their kid to be. But with third person, especially, what I'm trying to distinguish between when I'm writing first and third person is how removed the character is from their own feelings. So especially in Death of a Bachelor, it's about 2 super repressed dudes, like, who do not understand their own hearts. trying to learn to soften and open up. And so writing in first person for those characters wouldn't feel right because, there is a little bit more blatant statements of how they're feeling and what they're thinking about. Whereas third person, it's like you can just back off and like zoom the camera way out and just not like let the reader fill in the gaps, especially, and with Weight of Living, especially that one had to be third person point of view because the whole plot is the love interest Gabby is like, I don't know how my own brain works. Like, I don't, like I've got all these feelings and I can't name a single one of them. And trying to put that in first person would have just been like her being like, it would have been like a Hemingway book where it's like, I did this, I did that, no elaboration.
Right. And I can definitely see that happening in The Weight of Living because Gabby is really, you see a little bit from a third person point of view, you see a little bit of her internal struggle, but you also see how it's impacting other characters and how those other characters react or interact with her to not just say like, I'm Gabby and I'm confused about this. Like you see it evolve, which is really the entire like crux of that journey through the book. That's why we read it, is to go on that journey with the readers. So it makes a lot of sense. And I think from the other point of view, I'm so excited to read the romance that's in first person, the capital R romance, the big heart eyes emoji. But to see the YA difference where Sarah from The Weight of Living speaks in her own voice, because you can tell through this book that Sarah has big feels and she's got big ideas and all of her energy and her emotions are big. So I'm excited to see her dig into those and experience those in a first person voice. So I think that's going to be really, wait, is that out now? Is that, or no?
No, I'm still working on that one. Cause like let's see, I had a finished draft at the start of the pandemic, but I wasn't happy with it because of some of the plot elements. So I wrote like a new outline after I read Romancing the Beat for the first time, because the fourth book is a lot more about romance. So what's fun with Sarah is she will tell you her emotions, but her idea of her own emotions is not necessarily correct. So she says, this is what I'm feeling, because she's deflecting from something else that's bigger. So that's something else that's fun about first person, is you can say, this is my emotional truth, and know that the character's lying. And the process of the book is like, no, we're digging away at something deeper here. Which is another, like with third person, it's a little more obvious that there's like a wall there. Whereas with first person, it's like, you think that you're getting what's true, but it's just the character's truth. Here's the real truth that we're going to like hit them in the face with, which is something I really enjoy.
I had never thought of that, but it's true in literature and real life. People know that their own emotional truth, I'm angry because X, but the reality of it may be something bigger or smaller. Like it could be something completely different. Like I love the idea of playing that out with, as you called it, that character's emotional truth as they know it, but getting the feeling through maybe interaction with other characters or other scenes that it's just maybe not all it seems to be on the surface there. This has been so much fun. We are right after the top of the hour. So I want to do so we've talked about your works in progress. Let's do a quick recap of some tips for these last 2 weeks of NaNoWriMo. Find joy in other people's successes, other authors, other writers, other whatever they are, people getting published, finding joy in other people's successes rather than jealousy, rather than resentment, rather than comparison, which is such a, like, though they're already done, I must be a complete dolt. Like I haven't written my 50,000 words by the middle of November, that kind of thing. So finding joy in other people's successes and getting your own motivation from that, treating every day as its own thing. It's a new day. It's a new start. you're going to sit down and write because you love it. You're not
Mhm.
going to put that artificial sometimes or that extra pressure on how far behind you feel like you are. That kind of treating each day as a new beginning, writing what you love because you love it, because those characters are knocking at your brain and saying like, I'm here and I'm in this situation and here's what I'm going to do. Getting that out on paper. What else? What other parting words of wisdom from all your years in NaNoWriMo would you leave with our group?
Something that's really helped me as someone who's done pretty much every session of Nano since 2008, 2009, plus all the camp NaNoWriMos when they were just getting that started, is really making it serve you. NaNoWriMo, the official story, is really about starting from scratch with a new story that maybe you've plotted out, maybe you haven't. It's just kind of like getting that new feeling. And I've done that several times. I've written probably 4 or 5 books that are done and are things you would call books, but would other people call them books? I'm not sure. You know how that goes. It's Nano.
It's like a pile of words. Here, I have a pile of words.
Like I
that's when you edit.
Actually, I did double Nano one year where I did 100K. And the book actually came out to be 110 words and 110,000 words. And it's like, it does not need to be this long, but I did it. And it's like 90% of that book is unusable, but not to discourage anybody, but sometimes that happens. And you have to really, you can use Nano as a way to build up your skill sets. And every time you do this, I think you should be very reflective is the thing. Like when you're actually writing the book, you need to not be thinking with your editor brain. You need to be thinking with your Nano brain. But when you're done or before you start, you should be asking yourself, what do I want to work on? Like with me, with this book I'm doing, it's very different from my usual stuff. I'm really pushing myself to do more description, which is difficult for me because I'm blind as a bat, so I don't pay attention to things around me. So whenever I do a book, I always have to go back in and add that stuff. So I'm trying to make myself slow down, really put in the panoramic shot, you know, establish everything that's going on, really talk about the characters, and also really put their feelings on the page instead of implying them, which is my usual thing. Like I'm usually, my characters are very distant from their feelings and I know what they're feeling, but I can't say that outright. Whereas now I'm like, no, you are going to like open, like get all over the page and like make a mess and really lean into that because it's good for you. And it's been good for me, not just as a writer, but as a person to really let myself like do that giggly, bubbly stuff and feel those things, because I realized as much as my characters were locking stuff away, I was locking stuff away. And so like, you know, I'm not saying like use Nano as therapy, but like definitely use it to like listen to yourself, because you're going to be sitting here working on a book by yourself in your own head, presumably not showing it to anybody, unless you're like really cool and like super confident like that. I don't show anybody.
Like I've not yet met anyone who is like, oh no, we did an interview with an author. Oh, who was it? Just recently, who did Nano one year, and every day they would write, and every evening, you know, it was years ago, so you could go out to like have drinks or whatever. She would go to the bar and take that section of her book and give it to people to read right then. And I'm like, oh, gasp! You're so bold. It was
like, I know that some people do actually do like live writing on like Twitch or whatever, and I'm like, you are braver than a U.S. Marine, because like I am like, no, please no.
Oh, SEAL Team 6 of writers is what that is.
Yeah.
That is like some next level stuff. That's bold.
Like that's like a reality show, like Fear Factor.
And it's okay if you do or you don't show your work along the way, or you do or you don't ever show your work. It's all okay, because the work is the reward, really. You know, unless you get published and then you're going to have to show somebody.
You get published and then eventually you get money, but I talk about the economics. It won't be as much money as you think it will, even if you get a big juicy advance. It's a thing. I'm sorry, you need to know about it if you want to be published. Like I want to be happy-go-lucky about this, but
That's okay. We'll do that. I'll schedule a separate interview with you on that topic because I'm so intrigued by that. But I do agree, like, ooh, let's not talk about that downer part. Let's leave
good thing only. Like, Nano for you is about, it should be about like introspection and really like, what did I learn from this book?
You knew she would show up at some point. She just ran across the screen. That's how that goes.
I love her.
Isn't she amazing? And did you see her little hat? I have to show everybody. She won't wear it, but I have a little NaNoWriMo riding helmet with ear holes for her. Okay. So I'm so sorry. That's what happens when we do live interviews. Somebody's cat always shows up, and then suddenly we're derailed.
The cat is the best part. I mean, you can't hear it, but my cat has been screaming behind the door that I've shut her in for the past half an hour. She's a drama queen. And if I do let her out, she will immediately come to my desk and knock things over as retaliation. So I want to wait and let her unleash the storm and then calm down. She's a real, like, diva. We call her she's my beautiful little princess. And she just causes so many problems, but I love her so much.
Yeah. Excellent. So on that note, sometimes when things happen, we just go, and so on that note, let's attack the day, attack the week, attack the remainder of November, and have fun doing it. I love your parting thoughts around being introspective and working on things and using this as practice. Pick a day and say, today I'm going to write more descriptively. I'm going to write more overt emotional expression. I love the approach of having each day be perhaps its own personal challenge, not just to hit a word count, but to practice your craft and stretch yourself and write a scene that you wouldn't normally write.
Like, at the end of the day, you might have to junk a bunch of the stuff you wrote during NaNoWriMo, but you'll always have the way you felt working on that, and you'll always have whatever you learned. And you did learn something, even if it was only, I can sit my butt in a chair for an hour and write this many words. That's a skill. That's a lesson. You did a good job.
That's amazing. On that note, before the cat jumps on the screen, on the keyboard and accidentally knocks us off, I think we'll do a graceful ending to our live stream. MA, thank you so much. This has been a real joy, and I hope that all of our viewers are as inspired as I'm feeling right now to jump in, attack the day, attack the rest of night. Hello. I should not try to write right after this because I've now lost it. Attack the rest of NaNoWriMo and grow as writers and grow as authors and as human beings and find joy in everyone's success. I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to talk economics in another live stream. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will have the recording of this available in Facebook and on YouTube immediately. I know a couple people had to drop off and they'll come back later and catch the end. Thank you again, MA. Everyone out there, have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Anytime. Bye.
Bye.